Yes, sounds like it.
Okay, we're ready.
Okay. Good evening. Calling to order the Wednesday, August 4th, 2021 Historic Preservation Commission meeting. Chairman Bonin is absent tonight, so I'll be sitting in for him. Bethany, would you please do a roll call for attendance?
Yep. Commissioner Barkley? Here. Commissioner Weinberger?
Here.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Here.
Commissioner Braden?
Here.
Commissioner Harlow?
Here.
And Commissioner Prisby and Chairman Bonin are absent.
Okay. So our first order of business is approval of the minutes from our July 7th meeting. Does anyone have any comments about those? Okay, hearing nothing, is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve the May, is it May?
July 7th.
Oh, July 7th.
A
Historic
second.
Preservation meeting.
Okay, we have a second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Barkley?
Aye.
Commissioner Weinberger?
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Aye.
Commissioner Braden?
Aye.
Commissioner Harlow?
Aye. Okay, the next item on our agenda is a sign permit review, case A-13-2021, 28 East Hinsdale Avenue, Marabella Home, installation of one wall sign. Are you folks here about that? Okay, if you would please go to the podium, state your name, and tell us about your proposal.
Hello, Danielle Antipov. I'm here because I think we're trying to get the placement of the sign approved, I believe. Is that correct? I wasn't here for any of the other meetings.
If the signage, so the placement, yes, and the size and the look and all of that.
Oh,
Yeah, it's the whole thing.
I
Yeah.
don't really have the information on, I wasn't told that I needed to provide the size. I was just
Well-
told I was supposed to be providing the placement.
It's on
And that
here.
was the last question.
We
Okay.
have it all.
Right.
So it's 22 and a half tall and 96 and a half wide, right?
Correct.
Yep.
So, so what I was told is, I believe the last meeting, you guys discussed having the sign placed over the window, centered over the window. And this is what I prefer. I don't know what else to really say about it.
Trying to
So it's
read
non-illuminated.
both. I'm trying to figure out, there's two proposed, so you're saying the idea is to decide, okay,
She wants
got it,
this
thank you.
So there's an awning, and under the awning, there are two doors for two separate businesses. So I think directly over my window kind of clarifies where my store is, rather than being closer to the two doors and then not knowing which door actually to enter into Marabelle Home.
So the first, the door facing, like I'm facing it, the door on the left is yours.
Yes.
The other door goes upstairs.
I believe it goes downstairs.
Downstairs?
Yes.
Bowling alley?
I don't know.
There's a music studio down below.
But where's their signage?
Yeah, where is there some?
I don't think they have any.
Okay.
My son actually plays there, so I don't think I've ever seen a sign, so I don't know.
There's nothing there. There's nothing there. Okay.
There's that placard sign that comes out from the building to the right.
Oh, there you go.
Perhaps
You're right.
that's it.
Yeah. Oh, hard to see because that is
Oh.
right there.
Oh, I see, okay. Oh, I see. Yeah, it's here.
So between the two proposals that you submitted, you want to go with the one on the top here, where it's
Correct.
centered over the windows.
Yes.
And it's not illuminated in
No.
any way.
No.
Okay.
What's the material of the sign?
Uh, it says acrylic flat. I think think it's
Oh, okay.
acrylic
It just says
with an
acrylic,
aluminum background.
but isn't it on a surface?
So there's a backing.
Aluminum. Yeah. So I assume what is it? Aluminum has a look to it, right? So I'm just trying to get a picture.
So it's on a white aluminum background, and then the letters are black acrylic.
I see,
Um,
I see.
and I believe that he had mentioned that having the backing made the sign a little bit more stable and safer.
No, it's fine, I just want to know.
Okay.
Okay.
So from reading the packet, it sounds like at the last meeting, they were not here, there was discussion, but it was tabled. And that's why but then it already went to the Plan Commission and already was approved.
Correct.
So,
It would be approved subject to the recommendation here. This is what similarly happened with homemade pizza, excuse
Right.
me. And so what we did was the Plan Commission could move it forward, but subject to the recommendation of the Historic Preservation Commission. The Plan Commission recommended that, recommended approval of the sign being centered just over the storefront window. Their reasoning for that was, one, it was the preference of the business owner, but you can kind of see on this page, per their discussion, it was photoshopped out, but there's a light pole that's like right in the center here, and so their concerns was the light pole would block it if it was centered over the entire area. Just to give everyone a little context about that discussion.
Oh, the light pole does show up over.
Yeah, it's photoshopped out, so you can't see it in one of
Oh,
the.
I see. I
Yeah.
get it. Oh,
well, and I would say that I would, first choice, have it centered on that entire opening. However, having that other door go to another business, that's very confusing. So I'm fine with it being centered over the windows, to be honest.
Not a problem. I mean, I think that's usually our preference, is that it's centered symmetrically, sort of the way the awning on Yankee Peddler on the other side
Yeah.
is done. But it seems a valid concern where there are two doors to different businesses. Well, do any of the commissioners have any other questions for the applicant? Or are we ready to entertain a motion?
honestly, I think, it's proportionally right. You have an awning, you have an obstruction, then you have a sign, meaning it works fine, actually, if you did it the other way, closer to the door. If you're trying to figure out proportions, it doesn't work as well. Do you see what I mean? I mean, do you get a sense that you got,
Yeah,
if you did it to the side, if you just remove the doors for a minute, it would look like the sign is off to the side. So I think it's fine the way they have it.
I agree.
It's actually in a good location for signage on that building, that limestone panels.
right. Sure. Jim, did you have any comments or concerns about?
No, that was
the-
it. I mean,
that was it. Okay,
It was
okay.
in a good location.
Yeah, all right. Sure.
I move to approve case A-13-2021, 28 East Hinsdale Avenue signage as submitted from Marabella Home, installation of one wall sign.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Barkley?
Aye.
Commissioner Weinberger?
Aye.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Aye.
Commissioner Braden?
Aye.
Commissioner Harlow?
Aye.
Commissioner Prisby?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Aye.
Thanks.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is public comment, but the public just left. So, the next item after that is new business. Does anyone have any new business for us? Item 7 on the agenda is old business. A is signage in the Robbins Park Historic District, and then B is amendments to Title 14 in terms of a status update.
Yeah. So I reached out to many sign contractors after our last meeting and kind of gave them a sense of some of the design guidelines that we had talked about for the sign toppers. I've heard back from 3, 2, one of which still needs to do some updating to their quotes. So I should have something for the next meeting for us to go over. If it's under a certain amount, we might be able to have our village manager approve it. If it's over a certain amount, we might need to bring it to the board. So once I have all of those quotes together, we can kind of take a look. One of the companies actually went above and beyond and already started putting some renderings together. So I think you guys will be excited to see those if we can move forward. They're a company that we've previously worked with, so they know our signage, I think, pretty well. So I'm excited to talk about that, hopefully at the next meeting, once we have those numbers. The second thing is we are having a committee of the whole meeting, just to remind everyone, before the board meeting on August 10th. So you all, of course, are invited. We will be in this room. It's at 6:30, and the focus of that meeting is going to be a continuation on just the preservation incentives in total. We, for this meeting, are kind of going back to what we talked about in May. The last meeting, we talked more about some of the legal aspects, and Michael Mars did a presentation. This meeting is going to be the zoning relief. So we put together some examples. I'll send out on Friday the packet so you guys will all be able to see it. We can chat ahead of time if any of you have any questions. But we took a couple of really good examples in the community and how if we provided potentially zoning relief through either a zoning overlay district or through some other means, what that could mean for historic properties. And providing a little bit more in terms of if someone was trying to modernize a historic building, put on an addition, it might be a way that it would encourage the preservation instead of demolition. So that'll be up for discussion, and I hope you guys can make it. And then the following meetings, we'll talk more about the other preservation incentives that were originally put together in that draft ordinance by President Colley. So
What we presented, what Mike D'Onofrio helped us draft?
this was, I believe, it was before my time, but I believe it was a draft that President Colley put together with our attorney on a whole slew of incentives.
Will we be looking at the work that this commission did?
Yes.
Okay.
So we only have an hour in these
Yeah.
meetings. That's the issue. So, and the direction, I think that we're going right now is start with the incentives first, and then we'll be, moving into the process, because I think your ordinance was more process-driven.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
I think
And we're-
specifically what Mr. D'Onofrio helped us with was probably process based on similar communities. And then we also worked quite a bit on incentives. Okay.
Having that document on incentives that President Colley came up with will be helpful.
It will be in the packet. Yeah, and I think that it was originally dated August of 2020, so it's not a newish document. It's been around for a bit. I think it was brought up at a board meeting, but
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd love to see it.
yeah, it'll be included in the packet. I'll send it out to everyone. And this was, what is to be discussed at this coming meeting is more of the opening of the zoning, incentives. I think the goal is obviously to talk about more of these items as we move along, but like I said, it's only an hour meeting before, so, but I would like to get your feedback on the zoning stuff, because I think this was the first stab at, hey, what would happen if we provided this, and we don't really know yet, all the answers haven't quite been solved yet. Yeah.
I would like, does anyone else have comments on Title 14 progress? I'm dovetailing on it, but Shannon.
Well, I was just going to say there's a couple pieces from the minutes from the July meeting that I wanted to just follow up with. That,
Sorry.
Okay.
I had noticed that, I wasn't at that meeting, but you had, Alexis, you had brought up the pre-demolition sales
Yeah,
issue.
720 South Elm, which was what I was going to talk about.
And I was wondering if Bethany, there was any work on pre-demolition sales, and it says that that staff was gonna follow up on that item at this meeting.
That was my question too, where we were on that in terms of code enforcement.
Yeah, so I did follow up in terms of that one particular property, and we are working through with our attorney and code enforcement to see what can be done.
What does that mean? With all due
So-
respect, I just, do you,
So this is what we kind of talked about last time of pre-demolition sales, or what happened in these certain cases, are challenging, because if we don't see anything from the outside, or if we don't know that anything happened on the inside and we don't have like the proof, it's hard to do actual enforcement. You know, it's becomes
even though,
hearsay to
even though
some degree.
people walking through the home with photos have sent it to you all?
So
With
that's
the
what we're
water
working through
heater
right now.
gone,
Yep.
furnaces.
So there's the legal process now that we're
Sure.
going through to
Okay.
move it along and see what we
Okay.
can do with it. So it's
Okay.
not like it's just evaporated. We're looking at it on the legal side now.
Well, so yes, I appreciate the legal side, but it's non-code compliant, correct? I called ComEd and utilities or electrical were shut off on July 1st. So I'm assuming NICOR might be the same. I do not know that. I only called ComEd. So
Okay.
that is against code.
And I think now, since our last meeting, we've gotten some additional information, and we possibly have some eyewitnesses that have given us some additional information. So like I said, it's my understanding that was provided to
Sure.
our attorney to
Okay.
then move it forward.
Perfect. I think my only question is why we have to consult our village attorneys if it's non-code compliant. Isn't it black and white that you're not code compliant and turn the utilities back on?
I think when we talked about this a month ago, it was unclear if the utilities had been disconnected at that time.
Well, I called Rob, or I emailed Rob, and I think I CC'd you and Chairman Bonin, that ComEd was definitely shut off on July 1st. I have a screenshot too of my call with ComEd.
Okay.
And Rob does know that. And Rob also received an email from a contractor who walked through the home and who also knows the gentleman who conducted the pre-demolition sale, that in fact the furnace, the water heater were all sold, all the hardwood is sold, and I understand the hardwood doesn't impact code. But certainly the water heater, the furnace, the HVAC, were all gone, in addition to the majority of the bathrooms. And again, Rob pointed out that you just need to have one sink and one toilet. So again, I want to be clear that, you know, it's not all non-code compliant, but definitely the utilities or ComEd was off.
So to move something forward, though, through an actual like code compliant situation, we need to have the evidence, and that's what we've been doing, of gathering that and then giving it to our attorney, because
Okay.
they would be the one who would help us put that case together. That's what I mean
Sure.
by taking it through, you know, the legal process.
Okay, well, couldn't you guys just read the meter? Wouldn't that be evidence? Or call ComEd? I'm sorry, I'm just trying to like think through the process because I don't want it to get mired in red tape.
Yeah.
And then they come before us for a demo permit and it's been 3 months and the home now is unsalvageable.
Well,
Yeah,
and
I can-
it's easier to ask for forgiveness and permission, so we're getting to that point now, aren't we?
Right.
Yeah, I'd have to look at what we can and can't do. A lot of code enforcement, though, like I said earlier, our limitations are what you can visibly see when you're standing from the street. So it's not as easy sometimes to walk around and go look at the meter.
Sure.
There's, you know,
But the
or
village-
peer
Well,
through
that's
the
a problem.
windows.
I mean, that's already a problem, because if they can do anything behind, call it closed doors, they can just rip the house apart from inside
They
out.
have, yeah, they have.
And they've done that, so, that doesn't work. That needs to be, figured out, because that is really, it's working in their favor.
Right.
All you have to do is call ComEd and NICOR, and they can tell you exactly when the service was interrupted. So that would be your proof. If you can, I understand you can't go on private property to read the meter. I absolutely
No,
understand
I
that.
understand that, but I think if there needs to be some sort of a safeguard for us, well, not necessarily a safeguard, but an opportunity for us to visit because we can't take these people on their words because they're not telling the truth.
So I don't want to make it sound like staff hasn't been doing anything. I know that Rob and our, prosecutor have been handling it. I've just
Right,
been a
thank
little
you.
bit
No.
out of the loop.
Yeah,
So it's,
absolutely.
You know, a
it's
little bit.
absolutely not like we're,
No, I'm not saying that. I just think they need to be much more proactive and think like a developer or a builder would do. And like if they're not watching me, I'll do everything I can to get my way. And that's what's been happening. Usually right up to our face, they just tell, no, this is what we want done. And so what are we here for?
And I
We've
know
seen it
you,
before.
and I know that you did, I'm sorry, I don't want to infer that. I know that village staff did apparently contact the new owner or the builder, and they did have that window closed on the second floor. So thank you for that. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to infer that you're not being helpful, I know. It's just, I'm questioning the process. If we can easily obtain proof that something's non-code compliant, it seems like we're wasting a little bit of time.
Bethy, we're trying to basically kind of describe our frustrations with
Yeah.
what we're dealing with. That's why if we sound like we're trying to push a little too hard, it's because we've been through this many, many times, and it's sometimes we feel like we're just basically a ghost commission that just,
Yeah.
people just do whatever they want. We're
Yeah.
just,
I think what we talked about last time is this type of demolition is a really hard one to handle. And if you guys have ideas of how we could handle this in the future, it's just so hard when, a lot of historic preservation regulations are really focused on what you can see from the outside.
Yeah.
Just in general of what historic preservation commissions have the ability to review. This is a weird one where like it's under the guise of everything is in the inside and you can't technically see it, outright on face value.
But code does say, correct, that utilities have to be hooked up. I'm pretty sure. Rob McGinnis has told me that several times. So yes. What's happening in the inside, maybe in terms of design and elements that have been sold, but I think we're looking at some very basic things here. With ComEd was shut off July 1st.
That's the point. It's the easy stuff,
Right.
right? You're required to
Exactly.
have the utilities maintained for the house.
That
They're
should
off,
be-
fine them.
That should be
Slap them
exactly.
with it immediately at that point.
I don't see why we have to get the village attorneys involved when this is so black and white. For this instance, the pre-demolition sale, yes, there's a lot of gray area in terms of what makes a home livable and not, and I understand that, and I want to be very careful to follow code.
I'll take a little, I can keep utilities on, but I'll basically shut my circuit breaker off. You basically shut down the power
Exactly.
to the house.
Right.
Everything gets turned off. Oh, sorry, and the utilities go down almost to zero. So they'll find a way around that one too. That's
Yeah.
what we have to think about.
And I'm not sure there is a way around that, by the way.
What do you mean?
I mean, if someone wants to remodel the inside of their home, historic or not,
Yeah.
they could gut the whole thing, provided, by definition, they have a working bathroom and something they could define as a kitchen.
Sure.
Beyond that, it doesn't matter, right? So
Well, I do think,
it's
though,
hard to
that
enforce
there's-
that.
No, I don't.
we just need to get over this. We need to get Title 14 done and then start working towards education. Because if we have a really great relationship with all the builders, there could be this, symbiotic relationship between us and them and the Historical Society so that we could get photos before things are pulled out,
To
so that
document.
we could document the interiors of historic homes. I mean, I think we just have to, we're talking about like, I don't know, at least two different things, if not a bunch of different things. But this one is what it is. But once we get Title 14 buttoned up, we need to really start working on relationship building and education and make it not an us and them
Right.
situation. So
I
I do think there's the possibility of at least documenting interiors before.
And I know a lot of similar communities, they have verbiage in their preservation codes where the town, village gets first crack at salvaging historic or architectural elements in the home. I know that that was very prevalent among my research last year. And, you know, they're, to Commissioner Weinberger's point, it goes along with documenting and preserving that, those elements.
I think so much of this still gets back into the Title 14, the incentives. I mean, it boils down to why are they doing this? It's because it's much easier to tear that house down. There's more money to be made there. There's absolutely zero reason to keep that house financially for someone that wants to come in and develop that property. If you flip that around and you change the zoning and you do a historic overlay district and you incentivize people to keep that house, they're not going to go through the trouble of gutting it and selling it if they can benefit from keeping it.
Yeah.
We have to completely flip that around, and the sooner we get through this Title 14 stuff and these incentives, the better off we're going to be. Maybe a vast majority of this problem goes away with that implemented.
Yeah.
Well, you're right about that. It's basically flipping things around. If the incentive now almost, if you can get to the incentive where basically it pans out where it's say, well, if we keep the home, we benefit this much. If we tear it down, then we have another issue to deal with. But it's flipping the cards around, and that's going to be the key.
And that's always been the problem with the zoning code that we have right now. You apply current zoning onto these older houses, and it's so much easier to work off of a clean slate
Yeah,
and to
of
deal with
course.
so much of the nonsense that goes on applying the new zoning to old homes, right? That has to change,
Right.
and it fixes the problem.
And I'd love to see the village have someone who could help these homeowners once they begin their renovations to apply for the tax credits, because that's a really tough thing to navigate.
Yeah.
And it's not very clear on the state's website. I went through it. I was trying to like make a cheat sheet of things that you can do. If we had someone, and I know you're so busy, but you're preservation focused, if we had someone who could work with these homeowners pro bono, obviously, and say, you know, here's what you can do. Here's, you know, if we have a pamphlet, here are the ways that, you know, you can thoughtfully renovate your home and within the criteria that you can receive these tax freezes.
I mean, I think you're gonna have to go as far as having somebody that can do the paperwork for them because
Exactly, yes, you're
Because
so
it's-
right.
it's complicated.
Yes, it's really complicated.
I mean, obviously, if you get good at it, it gets easier. But for someone, it's like, I don't want to do that. Spend hours and hours. I don't even know what I'm doing.
Right,
And then
right.
you submit, and then they reject it, and you don't know why.
Yeah,
And that happened over and over. So there needs to be a way to streamline it. I don't know, simplify it. I don't know if you can, but right now it's very cumbersome. I mean, even for myself, I think what I know what I'm doing. I still make mistakes along the way because you really need. There are people that do have historical consulting jobs that actually do the paperwork. We know Granecki was one of them.
oh, right.
Yeah, and there's others, but that's what you need. And I don't know if we could figure out a way, well, they should be compensated, whether through the village or something. I don't know what would be the right, because it's probably easier for them because they do it day in and day out,
Right.
Right.
you know, so.
It'd be a huge incentive, especially in the Robbins Park Historic District with the property taxes continuing to go up. Almost like a SAT tutor, but for the tax freeze.
So Bethany, to that end, can you give us some sense, if you know, we have this additional committee of the whole meeting next Tuesday, the 10th. How many more of these do you anticipate before we might be at the point that there's consideration of the actual Title 14 changes?
I don't have an answer for that yet. But what I do know is when we originally started these discussions at the Committee of the Whole, it was anticipated for right now that we would hold the meetings until the end of September. In the summer months, there's only one board meeting, so that kind of has prolonged everything. In September, we will have 2 meetings. And it was my understanding at the original, one of the last meetings, that the first meeting in September, we were gonna step back and look at all the incentives again, after we talked about zoning relief, and then we have one more in September. So it's to be determined, and I think we will know kind of where that will go at the next meeting or the next couple meetings. I haven't gotten that feedback yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's helpful.
But that's a really good question that's why I encourage you guys to attend these meetings, because these are the type of questions that would be really helpful while we're with the committee of the whole, of what's our actual process here, and how do we want that conversation to keep moving forward. Because one of the things that I think, you guys will probably see in the report that's gonna go out on Friday for the committee of the whole with these zoning incentives is there's still so many questions that need to be figured out of if we have a zoning overlay district, we've heard from a lot of builders that, for example, we want to expedite the process, but generally you should potentially have the HPC or another body or staff or someone be reviewing projects that might be taking advantage of a preservation incentive, simply because you want to make sure they're actually doing preservation. We talked about that at one of the committee of the whole meetings where you can almost have this facadism where someone's trying to keep a sliver of a historic building, a tiny little sliver, and then get a whole bunch of zoning bonuses for it, and it's not really preservation. So there needs to be a little bit of checks and balances here without making it a over cumbersome process. But that's the kind of thing where that then ties into the other changes to Title 14. So there's a lot more questions to still discuss.
At this point, I'd take facades over all new construction. At least the facades keep the streetscape. But I know that's controversial.
Better than nothing.
Right.
Was there an update on 419 South Oak?
So I do have two other updates here. So we talked about two properties last time. Good transition because it was on my list here. So for 419 South Oak, we looked into this. It looks like we issued the building permit. It does expire fairly soon, this month, I believe. I'll have to check what exact day. I just wrote down in August. I'm not clear at this time why the work has stopped, but we'll contact them if there's additional time needed for construction. So we need to follow up on that. I believe, though, 419 Oak, that was the one where I think it was my first Historic Preservation Commission, don't quote me, in May, where they did come forward because they wanted to do changes to that dormer. I think it was the one where they wanted that third floor and make it habitable. So I think with some of those changes, it kind of might have delayed a couple of things. But I believe they're still moving forward. And then for 241 East First Street, we have never received a permit application at this point for a new house. That was based on the information that I could find at the time.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So in thinking about that, that's the corner of First and Elm, right? Northwest corner. I don't recall, might have to check on this. Do we have sort of a statute of limitations on our approvals? My recollection is that past a point, our approval is no longer holds because too much time has elapsed.
Does it coincide with the permit? Well, that's true, so they haven't even applied for a permit.
They haven't, right?
Because they can't, right? Because we haven't voted on it.
Oh, we
vote on
did.
it? Oh, we
Well,
did
we
vote on
did,
it.
did.
but
We
that
did.
was,
But then I thought they had additional, right, okay.
yeah, that was really some
That's
time
a great,
ago.
and that's a great question.
So were they in for permit when we
So
reviewed it? Because that's when we actually approve or deny it.
Was
when they're
that
in for
just
permit.
the approval of a demolition, though, or was that
It's a
also a
vacant.
new house?
It was a vacant
The
lot.
new house,
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
New house.
the old house has been demolished for
Did
a
they
long
just
time.
come in front of us for a review of what they currently had without seeking approval? I don't remember.
It was a moment design. I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't sure if they were actually in for permit.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Well,
And if they were,
They-
then to Bill's point, if they were in for permit and that was the last hurdle that they needed to pull permit for us just to have us vote, whether for or against, if that's the case, why haven't they pulled permit? Why haven't they started? And there should be a statute of limitations on this.
well, I think both properties might be linked, 419 and First and Elm.
Well, I don't think they link them at the village that way. I don't think it
No.
really matters.
No, I'm saying as to why maybe construction slowed down. I don't know that, but
Because my recollection is that, we had a pretty involved conversation and it included, like, what are they doing with the staircase?
Yes.
the
And
front door.
Right, and
Front door,
the
yeah.
owner seemed to agree with a number of the recommendations that the commission made.
Right.
And I think, and we did, as I recall, approve those plans.
For 419 South Oak or for
Sorry, no, for First Street.
241 East First?
Yeah,
I can go back and look when that approval happened and if there is a limitation. But either way, we still don't have a permit submitted, which makes me think they may not even be moving forward. But I will look into it.
yeah. Okay, thank you.
Because they have a builder sign still out. Going back to signage.
Which I think they're only allowed to have for a year,
Interesting.
or it starts to become advertising.
Do you know how long that sign's been up?
No idea.
Since before they came to us, because at those hearings, we knew who the builder was at that time. Obviously, we would know from the application too, but the sign as well.
I'll look into that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Do we have any other old business or any other comments?
Have we heard anything on the Frank Lloyd Wright House at all? Did I miss something at the beginning of the
You
meeting?
did not miss anything at the beginning.
Oh, you missed the whole thing.
Okay, well, I'll read about it tomorrow.
I hope we have good news, maybe.
Okay.
We'll see.
So I just looked. The home on First came before us for a certificate of appropriateness to construct a new home in September. So they're coming up on a year.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's good to know.
Yeah, I'm not aware that we've bumped up against that before, Bethany, but
A lot of codes would have some sort of limitation on an approval, so I wouldn't be surprised if it was in there, but I will double check, obviously.
know,
And
yeah.
I'll contact them and let them know and make sure they're aware as well.
okay. Yeah, I mean, there are limits on approvals, say, for the decisions rendered by the ZBA. And
Right, it's fairly standard.
Yeah.
But you never know with our codes in certain sections.
Point taken.
Yeah, you just never know. I wish I could be so bold to say, yeah, that's a normal thing. We should have it.
Oh, gosh.
Okay. Well, if there's no other business, is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll
Second.
second.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.